Hey, everybody, this is Maha,
And this is Dylan.
and we're the hosts of See, That Wasn't Too Hard.
That wasn't too hard.
Well, thank you for catching up, Dylan, with that one. A podcast where we actually explore everything from process improvement all the way down to organizational health. Isn't that right, Dylan?
Heck yes.
And in today's episode, we got a new shiny toy that we're about to just explore and experiment with. How are you, Sean?
I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good. I am not trying to dehumanize you by calling you a toy. That's something.
That's okay. I dehumanize myself plenty. So.
And let's get started with today's episode. Are you ready, guys?
I'm good.
Okay.
Okay, let's get started. So, Sean, you know the spiel. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, my name's Sean. I live in a place called Saanich, BC, which is not far from Victoria, BC on Vancouver Island, so way out on the west coast. I grew up in Mississauga back when there was 40,000 people there, and I think it's over 2 million now. So that was an interesting place to grow up. Grew up as a shy but kind kid that loved playing the drums until he didn't. Went through like everybody, a struggling teen years. Didn't like high school, couldn't wait to leave. Didn't actually go to my graduation. I was in Europe at the time.
Nice.
Then traveled. I went to 14 countries in a year when I was 19 as a drummer, touring in a musical outfit. So
That's
at
cool.
19, at 19, I was playing in front of thousands of people every day and signing autographs, which was a really cool experience. And now at 50, I'm trying to get back there because I had stopped doing that once I moved to Victoria. So somewhere along the way, I got into IT, and now I'm doing less of that today. So,
Oh, that's okay, Sean. We're still gonna maybe poke your brain a little bit and talk about that IT phase if you're willing to let us in.
I'm game. Still what I do, and still most people I meet. So it's still drives the bulk of conversations I have.
So,
What were your challenges in those years of your life, maybe high school, and then your touring days?
Well, as far as blaming it on others, I think the education system was broken and is. And in Ontario at that point, I need to go to grade 13. I was actually the second last year where they used to do that. So we actually got tortured for one extra year. I was at best a C+ student because I wasn't the kind of kid that learned the way others did, right? And you hear that all the time now, and people are empathetic to that. But back in the 80s, that wasn't a thing. I mean, I used to get in trouble by teachers, and I remember in grade 5 getting in trouble and being the bad kid because I couldn't sit cross-legged. Well, my hip is actually fused to one of the vertebrae in my spine, and it's apparently a fairly common thing. So I can't sit cross-legged. It is so excruciatingly painful for me. But I would get in trouble because I wasn't doing what the teacher asked. Right? School sucked for me. I didn't enjoy. I wasn't inspired by any of it. I just reconnected with an old friend today who runs a Montessori school, and it's all about teaching kids when they're in when they're 8 years old, about running a lemonade stand and like business and getting them excited about that because they're not excelling at straight math, right? And so I was definitely one of those kids. My favorite Facebook meme that I keep seeing around every year is, I'm so happy that I learned all about parallelograms during parallelogram season, right? The tax season,
So at what point, did you internalize that judgment of the system, or did you realize it was kind of baloney from the start?
I internalized it. I believed I was stupid. I believed I was incapable. And somewhere along the line, and I've gone through a lot of personal discovery this year, but I also, and it turns out it's part of my design, and I'm really being into something called human design, but my design is I tend to dull my capabilities to make other people feel better. Like I'm actually really capable, but because I shine too brightly sometimes, that I actually lose friends over it. I've found over the years. I actually struggle, it seems to maintain, especially with male friends over the years. I've had guy friends, but as soon as I kind of show that I can do things and oops, I can do it better than they could. And to them, it was their skill. All of a sudden, we're not friends anymore. It's bizarre, but it's actually been my whole life. And I don't mean, I'm not saying that from a position of arrogance. I don't know. I'm able to do things that other people seem to struggle with, but then I get punished. So then I disappear. And so it sucks for me. So
at what point did you like put a name to that idea of like the internalization versus these are the external pressures or expectations on me that are unreasonable?
only in the last year. So I'm 50 now. So I had
so even the school system and its unreasonable expectations on you only in the last year?
Yeah, I mean, I think I always knew, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was always kind of a bit of an anarchist, like certainly was fighting these systems because they just didn't work, but I didn't have a voice until this year. But that was actually, well, basically I went and got blasted by psychedelics a year ago and made me aware of who I am and just brought it all up to the surface in one big, incredible weekend. And it's been a journey ever since of self-discovery. But yeah, I mean, you learn to bottle up who you are. You learn to say, well, this is who I am. And that's your conscious self. And so you're not tapping into who you really are. So I now understand. I have a really firm grasp of who I am now on the conscious and subconscious level. And I've been working in that space for over a year and getting deep. So yeah.
So in the earlier days, maybe 19, maybe 30, maybe 45, what were your goals? Were they consistent for that whole time?
30, I was in Bermuda. My daughter was on the way, and I was a really successful consultant flying around internationally. But once my daughter was on the way, I went into Papa Bear mode and wanted to make sure that I had a safe home and a safe place for my family, for my wife and pending daughter. And so I started making some changes. It's funny, I was just talking to a guy about this morning. And needed to know that I couldn't work for the person I worked for because I didn't respect him or the business he was running. And I was like, I can't build a foundation around that for my wife and kids as we transition to this next part of life. So I can remember I sent him a letter saying, because I wanted to stay in Bermuda. It was a beautiful place, obviously, and a great place to raise kids, or at least up until maybe the education kicks in. Yeah, I couldn't work for him anymore. And so I wrote him a letter saying, I want to start my own consultancy in Bermuda. And I will not take any of your clients. I will not solicit your clients. Like I gave him this letter and I was just resigning saying, I would like to start a company. I won't be a threat. That didn't work. He proceeded to try to kick me out of the country. He actually said the only way I would get a permit in Bermuda is if I became a hairdresser, and really messed with my family and my wife. And all the while doing it as like telling me that we were friends. So it's funny. I was talking to an old friend this morning about this. So it's nice and raw and back up on the surface. But yeah, at 30, I thought I had a plan, but I wasn't in control of my destiny. And so I had to change my plan. And that was actually when I knew I was going to start my own computer consulting company. I didn't for 2 years. I still had to kind of like do this transition in Bermuda, but I moved back to Victoria, starting a company that at the end of the day wasn't for starting it for me, wasn't starting it because I wanted to do it. I did it because I wanted to show that guy and 2 other gentlemen I worked for. I'll use the word gentlemen. Yeah, they're not gentlemen. 2 other folks I worked for that made me feel a foot tall. And I went and started a business because screw you, I'll show you what I can do. I can run a bit more successful business than you guys did. And I did. But you know what? None of those guys know that I did it. None of those guys care. I did it all for the wrong reasons. I started a business to show someone else what I was capable of. And then did it pretty successfully for 15 years. I don't like the day-to-day of a business. I like solving problems. So I have a great CEO in place now for our computer consulting company. And I kind of refer to her as my wrangler or handler. Like she she gets things done. She's amazing. Yeah. So I mean, I'm really grateful to have her in my court, because I'm now free to solve problems or help people. And that's all I want to do. But I get bored so quickly that I need to solve it and then move on. You can't run a business where you keep shifting who you are and what you are every week, because you can't market that. Nobody's looking for someone that can do everything. They're looking for specialists. They're looking for someone that is the expert in this field. And I want to be an expert in every field. That's just kind of how I'm driven. So
do you think you always knew that about yourself, that you wanted to solve problems, new problems? Or is that also part of your recent transition?
Yeah, that's interesting. I probably knew it, but I didn't listen to it. So I think that's the difference. I had, I was being a father. I was a business owner. I had staff. I felt responsibilities. I felt, it was hard. I mean, when I went to get my head blasted a year ago, before that, I was having nightmares that I was being buried alive under a house. Like I was literally in the dirt, in the dark, felt the weight of the house on me because I was feeling the weight of the world, because I was taking on responsibility that wasn't mine, but I kept doing it. And it was eventually like it was killing me. So,
Disney animated that into a song recently. Did you see that?
no.
Yeah, in Encanto. Under Pressure or something like that. Like that
Really?
same exact visual.
Really?
You go watch it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm letting my freak flag fly. I mean, I'm assuming this is an audio podcast, but I'm sitting here at 50 with a mohawk, and last night it was purple. It's
good for you, actually.
What's that?
I said good for you, because nothing would stick to this.
Interested in what I'm doing.
So there you go. If you had that mindset with you maybe 15 or 18 years ago, how do you think that might have changed the course of your life?
Oh, I tell people all the time, like, since I've been healing, like, watch out. I can't wait to see where I am in 6 months or in 2 years, because I think about, and that was part of my healing process, was forgiving myself for wasting 40 years trying to take. I was taking care of everyone else but myself. And as soon as I started taking care of myself, which was so important, and I really, really didn't do, what's amazing is now I can take care of more people. Like, I actually, being healed, I can now help heal other folks. And I'm finding that that's happening regularly. And I have the energy to do it. When you're on an airplane and they do the whole seatbelt exercise and they talk about the mask that comes down, right? So they always tell you, put the mask on yourself first. And that's so critical. Like, really what they're saying is, if you're there with your child, if you put the mask on your child first, which is your first inclination, then you've saved your child, but your child's gonna be fighting it. They don't understand why you're putting this mask on their face. And so meanwhile, you're losing oxygen. You're eventually gonna pass out. And then what's the first thing the kid's gonna do? They're gonna rip their mask off. Now you're both dead. So you have to put your mask on first so that you can breathe and focus and concentrate and be present. And then you can help your child. And then maybe you can help 10 other people around you. So I've taken that truly to heart, which is, I hadn't put a mask on myself my whole life. I was always taking care of everyone else. And it even when I wasn't asked. So that was the other problem, because and there's nothing worse than helping someone up to the point where now you're a pest. And then now they ask you to buzz off. And then you feel this like resentment, even though you were just trying to help. But it was just instinctual. It wasn't.
How do you think that actually worked out with kind of going into consultancy and consulting and telling people and trying to save companies too?
That's a good question.
I try.
I have been told many, many times that I give away way too much information in pre-sales meeting. Like, and I've actually had the client say, well, thanks for all that. We'll call you if we need you.
Yep.
Like, in an hour, I will have solved all their problems, given them thousands of dollars of information, and then they just leave. And so I had one guy, it was I can't remember his name, but it was a construction, like a building home company here in Victoria. And he would check in every year for a meeting. And the third year, he outright said, yeah, thanks. These meetings are really useful. You just always give me everything I need, and I've never have to pay a cent. And I just thought, wow, jerk. Like he actually knew what he was doing and finally owned up to it in year 3, right? So, but I want to help. I can't not help. Actually, I'm getting there. Boundaries has been a big part of taking care of myself. So my boundaries are way better now. So but that was my problem. I had 0 boundaries, 0 respect for myself and my own time. Always, and even here's the other thing. I was trying to provide value, even if it was the first thing off the top of my mind. Like I'm just desperate to give value. And that comes back to mommy issues and being noticed and being recognized and all that kind of stuff, that you're just desperate to provide value to someone.
I would debate it, because I think it comes from wanting to solve problems. I don't think it actually comes from a problem. I think it comes from a good place. And that good place is wanting to solve problems. And for you to solve problems, you need to obviously give them the whole chart of things of how to solve it. Root cause analysis in it, throw in a root cause analysis in it as well. So no, comes from a happy place, comes from a good place.
It always came from a kind place, but it came from a place with no boundaries or self-respect, at which point you can very easily be taken advantage of. So it's there is a fine line there for sure.
I think it's pretty notable that the construction company told you that truth, that you could be charging me for this and you're not, is basically the message that they delivered. And
he was less kind. He was snarky, like, it was more like, I think he felt guilty, actually.
Probably.
He probably felt guilty and was like, okay, now I feel bad because I'm totally taking advantage of you, right? It'd be this important meeting, 8 people present. It's the notion of pre-sales would lead to new work. And then I would just be like, but he always, when I think about it, he always makes sure I was there. Like I was a key person to be in that meeting. I wasn't actually going to be the one doing the work, but Sean has to be present at this meeting. And I think he would just knew I would give up the goods.
There's a Dilbert quote that says, I wish the whole planet renounced violence, then I could conquer the whole thing with a butter knife. And it makes me think, like, there are some people that are just so excited to help. And there are some people that don't care about helping. They just want to see, they want good things for them. I think there's a long spectrum, and people who are just all about helping a situation, and people who are about harvesting a situation or about appearances.
Utility.
On this podcast, we are more focused on people on the first side. What are the little guardrails in your life?
Well, part of it's self-care, self-healing, recognize the importance of boundaries, and the phrase is overused, but speaking my truth. Like I let people know exactly where I stand and what I mean, and I really try to get to the point. So
but now that you're going through the healing process and everything, you're actually recognizing and realizing that you're not at fault. You're realizing at the same time a lot of different things, and you're kind of setting up strategies for yourself to succeed.
I love myself now. I didn't love myself before. And so loving yourself means respecting your own time. A friend of mine had this phrase, if time is money, stop wasting my money. And so that's, one of the things I kind of remind myself of now. Not that I actually give one hoot about money anymore. I've really gotten to the point where money helps do things, but I don't care how much I have. I really don't. Abundance to me means living the life I want and doing the things I want.
Do you see the next lesson on the horizon? Do you have an inkling of what's coming next for your growth?
Well, I'm trying to define it. So I'm trying to design my lifestyle, and I've almost got it. I'm still tweaking it, but basically I want to be a rock star. Now, that doesn't mean snorting cocaine and living on a bus and sleeping with groupies. Rock stars don't set up their drums. So I'm trying to get a drum tech because I love performing, but the 3 hours it takes to set up and the 2 hours it takes to strike, makes for a really long day. Short, I want to play my drums and travel and help people and meet and help people. And whether that's as an empath, a business empath, a tech empath, a psychedelic integration specialist, like I'm interested in all these areas. So a friend of mine told me about a book called Rocket Fuel. And Rocket Fuel talks about in any sort of successful business in the beginning, you start as an entrepreneur, and at some point you have to decide that, you know, you birthed the business, but like, are you the person to still be there?
Yes.
And so in this book, he's got this 20 questions for who's the visionary and who's the integrator. And so as soon as I saw the word visionary, I was like, felt like I was going to throw up in my mouth, because I was like, I think they mean me. But to me, and this is again my conditioning, my issues, visionary meant lazy, it meant arrogant, it meant they don't do anything, right? But that's not true. So I took this test of the 20 questions, and it was like, so each question was weighted with 5 points. And I got 86 out of 100 for visionary. And I was trying to fail it. Like, I was actively fighting being a visionary, right? I was just so not into it. And then I started to accept, like, okay, visionary means you have 1,000 ideas. And I do. Like, inside my head, it's like fireworks going off all day. Like, I could just solve problems, and I just can't stop. And so I'm always writing them down and getting stressed. Like, I don't want to forget this one. It's a great one, but I just, there'll be 1,000 more. So I've learned to accept that they just come and go in the night. Whereas I talk to like my wife, she's like, I don't have the ideas ever. So like, but we're all different, right? So I really, no way. So I'm sneaky, because what I did is I stole a title that Simon Sinek put in one of his books called Chief Vision Officer, or CVO. You're responsible for outlining the values of the company. That kind of stuff I'm really comfortable with. I think those rooted things are really important. But, you know, visionary, and you know, I can think of a couple of guys who did put on their things visionary, and they are lazy and arrogant and don't have 1,000 ideas. They were just like, that's a title they wanted to attach to themselves. And I feel like that's the difference. I probably would have gotten 99 out of 100. Like, it's not, it doesn't mean I'm special or a visionary. It just means that that's how my brain works, and that's where I should be focused. And so that was kind of a relief, actually, at the end of the day. So,
well, it's kind of funny how earlier you were talking about you kind of dimming your light, and you're doing it right now with kind of not owning up to being a visionary. I
know, and it's hard. And yeah, that's still deeply rooted. Like, I'm not finished healing. Again, this human design thing is really interesting, because there's this other thing called gene keys, and my purpose, basically, it outlines, like, it basically says, you're here to do amazing things and inspire other people. That's what it says about me. And even that, I'm like, oh, like, that's just not, doesn't, you know, I don't want that attention, but it seems to be the case. Like, it's just why I'm here, apparently. So I'm trying to embrace it, but I seem to be fighting it every step of the way.
You talked about it too, the kind of the anarchist that doesn't like setting the rules, and how that actually drove you through your whole life. But that's just one question.
The anarchist who doesn't like following the rules. You don't mind setting the rules. Is that fair?
That's what I thought, but he doesn't like setting the rules.
I don't think I like setting the rules. I felt the responsibility as the business owner and the person that took responsibility for everybody's mortgage. Like, I
hence the house,
quite literally actually thought, I just always felt I was responsible for everybody's mortgage, like, not just my own, but every single staffer. So, this is what happened during COVID. This is the empath in me. This is the caregiver. This is the taking care of everyone else but themselves. I should have laid 6 people off at the start of the pandemic, like everybody else did. And it would have been easy. And I remember thinking, everybody else is doing that, I should. But no, I'm going to stick to my guns. I'm going to have belief and faith that we can, you know, weather this. So my wife and I, and I always say it's my decision, but my wife always reminds me that it was ours. Like, she would have told me no, but we paid our staff from our RSPs for 8 months during the pandemic. It didn't pay ourselves. We paid them. And then we had 5 employees leave the second they got a big job offer. And 2 of them had been with me like 7 years and gave a week's notice.
Wow.
All because they were under pressure from the new employer that they had to start right away. And then these people just vanished. So not only did we have their backs, but they didn't have ours. And that sucked. But what's interesting is I was talking to someone about it, and they were like, okay, so you made the mistake of spending your savings on people when you shouldn't have. You didn't just come to grips with key business decisions and do what was right for the company and for the health of the company. But what they said is also you stole from those people the experience of failing, like of having to go find a new job. And so I was like, so I'm an asshole too? Like, not only did I lose my savings, I suffered, it was cruel the way one person in particular left, like just it caused an ego death for me. But I'm actually the bad guy. I'm the guy that took from them an experience of what unemployment might feel like. And so instead I kept them in a job where they didn't have a lot of work to do. So they weren't that motivated. So they just got shittier and shittier as an employee too. Like, it's just hard lessons. And this is who I am. I learn everything the hard way, and I'm here to provide others with shortcuts. So folks, if there's another pandemic, you got to lay people off, lay them the fuck off. Like, just, that's don't do what I did. People take care of themselves. And I don't mean that from a harsh way, but people ultimately are responsible for themselves. And I took on everyone else's responsibility as well as my own.
A lot of cases, we fear for others when we are not supposed to, because they do pick up themselves, just like kids who fall and pick themselves up.
Yeah. Don't helicopter parent your employees, folks.
That is a yes.
Well, this is fantastic, Sean. Thank you. You've given us a lot to think about. I think it's tremendously rewarding to hear a story of growth, at least for me, and especially from someone who really likes to see other people succeed, and seeing you succeed now in ways that have, like, you've been unaware that you could succeed previously. Super exciting.
Yeah, I can't wait to see. Watch this space.
Watch this space.
Visionaries out. Thank you so much, Sean, for today. I've definitely learned a lot, and I'm going through that journey myself. So I'm seeing a lot of that. I've just realized I would say a few weeks ago, that part of loving yourself is also respecting yourself, for example. So there you go.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, 100%.
No, thank you guys for today. We've definitely learned a lot. And part of living is making those mistakes, whether big or small, and learning from them as much as possible. We all have our time. We all take our time when it comes to healing. But when it comes, it's beautiful, feels great. But that's part of process improvement. It's part of self-improvement as well. So don't forget to click like and subscribe if you like this episode. And don't forget to actually follow Sean on a lot of his new adventures as well. And until then, that wasn't too hard. We never sync, by the way, Sean, and it's our thing. It's our thing not to sync.
That's your thing, eh? You need to work on that thing.
Nah, I like that we don't sing, but that's up to me. Take care, everybody. See you.
Bye now.
Done. Woohoo!
Well, thank you, Sean.